Hello, beautiful people. My name is Lee Burns, for those of you who don't know who I am. I wear a lot of different hats. I am an executive at a couple of different companies. I have a couple of my own companies. I'm an artist, I'm a writer, and I am a speaker. And that is the hat that I'm coming to you from today. I'm coming from to you today. I speak at our churches and WISE organizations, and a couple of my friends who have been to some of the seminars reached out to me and asked me if I would put something together during these, what should we call them? Very interesting times. So I thought it was a great idea. I was considering doing that already, so the reach just confirmed it. So I reached into the main seminar that I deliver. I pulled out some of the key references that I think are incredibly applicable during these times. I have used them personally as the foundation to all of my operations, actually. And when I first started using them, I ended up going on a 6-year affluence trend where I 26x my income. I shot up the bridge, became a patron of the IAS, donated to so many of our humanitarian campaigns. My son in the Sea Org, my wife moving up the bridge, just dynamics expanding like crazy. And it's because this information is so fundamental. It's so fundamental to all activities that it is incredibly applicable to what we are dealing with right now, which if you're having a difficult time with, I'm pretty certain that this data will turn that difficult time on its head. All right, so let's just jump right in. I'm gonna flip this thing around so we can look at a reference, and then we'll rock and roll.
And yet all great successes are built on attention to fundamentals. Everything is built on a fundamental. Unless you can isolate these fundamentals, you of course leave your building with an incomplete foundation. It's sort of sitting in the air ever afterwards unless you find the fundamental with which to proceed. You wouldn't build any skyscrapers if you didn't put down a foundation.
All right, so what do fundamentals have to do with what's going on right now? Well, fundamentals have to do with everything that's going on anytime. Let me put it to you this way. What if there was an activity that you were involved in 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year? And it wouldn't matter what you were doing, you would always be involved in this activity. You could be baking some muffins like my wife and youngest daughter were yesterday. You could be eating those muffins. You could be walking the dog. You could be going for a run. You could be running a business during very difficult times. You could be very serious about this. You could be a bum on the street. You could be seeing how much drugs you could inject into a body. You could be seeing how much hysteria you could create within an environment. You could be freeing yourself spiritually. You could be seeing how high can you go spiritually? How far up can you go? You could be at a funeral and it could be very sad. You could even be having your own funeral or be in lockdown during a whole state of hysteria, and you would still be involved in this activity. It's the fundamental of all activities. It's life. Life, obviously, right? Is there anything, think about this, is there anything that you are doing in life that isn't life? Is there anything that's going on that isn't life? Right? Think about it. There isn't. There's no activity that you can be involved in, no doingness that you can be involved in that is not part of the activity that we call life, right? So if that's the case, then maybe it would be a good idea to understand what LRH has to say about what life is. Yeah? Yeah? I think that's a great idea. Okay, good. Let's look at some references on that. By the way, I want to put this note out there. A lot of these references you may already know. There's something about the sequence of these that paints a picture that is quite something. So I would just ask, if you know them, just in a new unit of time, have a look at them, all right? So let's go to the next slide, next reference.
We will start in by saying at once that life is a game. What is life? Life is a game. Yes, I know, but what are people doing? They're playing a game. Well, yeah, but what kind of games are they playing? Well, they're playing games they know they're playing and games they don't know they're playing. Well, there must be more to life than that. Yes, there is. There's no games. Well, you mean to tell me that there's only one item then, do you, really concerned with games? That's impossible because there wouldn't be just one thing going on. Well, it isn't just one thing. All life in its various involvements is involved in games. That's all there is to it. It works out that way. It processes that way. And the whole problem and difficulty solves that way. Do you see this? No matter what and no matter how we try to analyze and reanalyze existence, there doesn't seem to be any method at this time which is better than calling it a game.
Okay, so what does games apply to? Apparently, life. Apparently, all of life. Let's look at it. So what would be then, what would be running a business? It would be a game. What would be riding a motorcycle? One of my favorite games. What would be walking your dog? It would be a game. What would be being a husband? It would be a game. What would be being a wife? It would be a more difficult game. I'll give you that, but it would still be a game, right? What would be going up the bridge? It would be a game. Part of life, right? Life's a game, so it'd be a game. What would be being on staff? It'd be a great game, wouldn't it? What would be funding an ideal org? What would be reading a book? What would be being small and being a victim? All of these things, these would be games, wouldn't they? There would be different games that one could play, including being a victim. What would be squashing the whole planet into hysteria? A very odd game. It would be a very odd game, but it's still a game. What would be being the effect of that? It would be a game. All right. Okay, good. So really look at this for a minute. If you need to, pause this, okay? And really take a look at it. See if you can find anything that you could do that would not be life, right? Okay? So anything that you could do that wouldn't be life, right? If you can come up with that, I'll give you that it's not a game. All right? But if you're doing it and it's part of life, then according to the reference, it's a game. And I love the way that he ends that reference with, it works out that way. It processes that way. And the whole problem and difficulty solves that way. Isn't that great? The whole problem and difficulty solves that way. Wow, it's amazing. Okay, so when I looked at that for myself, I said, all right, well, I mean, this seems significant, right? It seems kind of significant that you could boil all of life down to just one activity that you would call a game. But how significant really is it to my success to really understanding games. To really understanding games. I mean, if I understood games, wouldn't I understand life? I mean, if life is a game, right? When I started looking at all of this, I said, well, how important is it then that I should really try to grasp this? Well, of course, our friend tells us how important it is to know this data. That's the next reference.
The road to truth detoured through games, through aberrative conditions, through stress and strife. Games is the common denominator of it. And those games contain freedom, barriers, and purposes. Life comes apart at the seams and is understood and restores itself to any condition you care to have, only so long as it follows through games.
Man, I love that last paragraph. Life comes apart at the seams and is understood and restores itself to any condition you care to have, only so long as, I love that it repeats it, only so long as it follows through games. That's pretty impressive. There I had my answer, right? If I want life to be in the condition that I care to have, then I'm going to have to understand games. I'm going to accomplish that through games. Does that make sense? So if we go back through what we've covered so far, to me, I was looking at saying, all right, there's nothing I can do that isn't life. So at the fundamental of all of it, we've got life that's going on. So what is life? Well, as he discovered, life is a game. Okay, so life is a game. Good. I'm trying to deal with life as a game. I got it. All right. Okay. Now, why do I need to understand this? Why is it so important? Well, only if I care to have life come apart at the seams, or the game come apart at the seams, right? Life come apart at the seams, and have it understood to me, and restore itself to any condition that I want it to be in. Well, I'm going to accomplish that by following through games. Okay. So at this point, it starts to seem to me that it would make a whole lot of sense to understand what the heck a game is, right? I mean, you hear this, oh, life is a game stuff all over the place. But what about a definition of a game, right? How does a game actually work? What are the parts? What is it composed of? How is it made up? This will come as no surprise to you, I'm sure, that our friend, of course, has told us that as well. And that's our next reference.
A game is composed of freedom, barriers, and purposes. And we've gotten one of these trick triangles, like the ARC triangle. You increase any corner of it, you increase the other two corners. Increase two, and you certainly increase the third. That's a highly selective triangle, and it works. Whammity bam. I'm going to have to ask you to look that over and find enough examples to satisfy yourself that a relationship does exist. Because it looks absolutely mad if we put a 9 o'clock curfew on the streets of this city that people would have more freedom. So you'll just have to walk your way through the morass of it because it's true. This is the wildest thing you ever saw. And by the way, if you need a definition for freedom, great one here from 88008. At the bottom of the screen, it says freedom. The definition there is ability to create and position energy or matter in time and space.
Okay, we had to change our view because we're going to use our whiteboard here in a second. But first I want to ask you this. Maybe you've heard of this purpose, barriers, and freedom thing before. If you are like me, you have, like I was, prior to really studying and doing what he says to do in this reference, which is what we're about to do. Here's what I thought. Here's what I thought prior to that. I thought, yeah, bigger purpose means bigger barriers. And once I overcome those barriers, then I will have the bigger freedom that goes along with it, right? Is that how the ARC triangle works? That's not how the ARC triangle works, is it? And I'm looking at the reference over here. He compares it to the ARC triangle. He says a game is composed of freedom, barriers, and purposes, and we've gotten one of these trick triangles like the ARC triangle. You increase any corner of it, you increase the other two corners. Increase two, and you certainly increase the third. That's a highly selective triangle, and it works. Whammy bam. All right, and then of course he says I'm gonna have to ask you to find enough examples. We'll get into that in a second. The first thing that I wanna start with here is just what we do in the seminar. Let's start with, first, a review of the ARC triangle. I know you know how it works, I know how it works, but he compares it to that. So in a new unit of time, let's look at the ARC triangle. Well, that's I don't even like that triangle there. That's okay. Here we go. There we go. Affinity, reality, and of course, communication. Okay, so definition of reality is, of course, agreement. Affinity. Affinity is a degree of liking, but at its root, I love the root definition, it means willingness to occupy the same space. It's a very usable definition. I like this. Okay, and of course, communication is, without getting into the really long definition, interchange of ideas, right? The interchanging of ideas. Okay, so some examples. I'll go first. Here's one of my favorite examples of the shrinking one corner of the triangle makes the whole triangle shrink, okay? I was a couple of years, maybe 2 or 3 years ago, my wife was taking me to the airport so that I could go to Flag to do Superpower. And on the way to the airport, I said something to her that was, trying to find the best word for it. Really, it was just stupid. It was a really stupid thing that I said. And this stupid thing that I said, she did not have agreement with. She was not in agreement with this stupid thing. That idea did not interchange at all. And so we by the time we got to the airport, got my stuff out. I'm on the curb. I'm about to leave for 3 weeks, 4 weeks. You know how it goes. I don't know how long I'm going to be gone. And my wife gave me one of these. Have fun. Was not willing to occupy the same space as me anymore. Does that make sense? I lowered this one. Well, I mean, you can even say I started there because I communicated an idea that would not interchange because she was not in agreement with it, and then she was not willing to occupy the same space as me. Well, continuing along that story, if you've had the beautiful opportunity to do Superpower, you know you have an opportunity to look at ethics. And while doing so, I spotted some of my own out ethics. And I had this beautiful cognition. And the cognition went like this. Forgive me, but this is how the cognition went. Oh, I'm an asshole. That was the cognition. Oh, I'm an asshole. Oh. So I called my wife and I told her, sweetheart, I'm so sorry. I'm an asshole. And she was in agreement with that concept. It was real to her. She was willing to occupy the same space as that concept. That idea, it interchanged just fine. All right. So our ARC triangle, which of course equals understanding, right? Our understanding of each other went way up. She understood, felt like she understood me much better. No, really, after that, our communication just kept growing and growing. We were on the phone talking for long periods of time. It was fantastic. So now, I need you to do something now. I need you, in just a moment, to pause the video, all right? And then I want you to go down to the comments where this is posted. And I want you to come up with your own examples of having used the ARC triangle or seen the ARC triangle in action. And I want you to write it down in the comments. If there's other comments that are there, then read through those comments to just refresh your reality on exactly how it is that this triangle works, all right? So hit pause and go do that now. Oh, good. You're done? All right, good. So, welcome back. I want to end off with one last example. Actually, it's an example of my wife using the triangle with my oldest daughter. It was a number of years ago. My daughter had been caved in for a couple of days, so my wife went in and gone in and talked to her a couple different times, and so she by the second day in the evening, she said, "All right, well that's enough." She says, I need you to get ready because we're going to go to the grocery store. And my daughter's teenager time says, no. And my wife says, yeah, we're going to go to the grocery store. So I need you to get ready. And she says, I don't want to go. My daughter says, I don't want to go to the grocery store. My wife says, I understand, but I need you to get ready because we are going to go to the grocery store. We need to get out of the house. We need to get out of the house. And long story short, she TR3s it, continues on the line, right, until my daughter is getting ready. So daughter gets ready. They get in the car to go to the grocery store, and she's listening to music. She's got one earphone in because we have a rule in the car, you have to keep one of them out, right? Even if you're listening to your music, you got to keep one out so we can be in communication. And so she's got the one out, but you can hear the music blaring off of the one that's hanging out. She's not interested in being in communication right now. She is not interested in being in ARC. But my wife gets her to the store, gets her walking around in the store with her. My wife is pushing the basket and she says, hey, sweetheart, grab that box of crackers for me, right? Or grab that bag of chips, or grab that loaf of bread, or whatever it was. So my daughter's doing that, and I wonder when she's doing this, and she's starting to relax a little bit, starting to be more in present time. What's happening here? Well, with the ARC triangle, what's happening is they're occupying the same space. And the more that they're doing it and dealing with the same reality, they're both agreeing. When my wife says, grab that box of crackers, and my daughter reaches over and grabs the box of crackers, they're both in agreement on that's a box of crackers, and then it goes into the basket, right? So she just continues on this line. By the time they're wrapping up there, my daughter is even pushing the basket, and she's both helping my wife do the shopping. By the time they're back in the car, all the earphones are out, and she's all chatty Cathy with my wife. Why? Because the triangle works, man. You raise one corner, the other two go up, right? You've done your own examples. You've looked at the other examples. So you know how this thing works. All right. If you raise one corner, what happens to the other two corners? They both go up. When do they go up? They go up right then, right? They don't go up later. You raise one corner, the other two go up with that corner, however much you're raising it. Same thing if you lower one. You lower one corner, the other two go down. right? You've observed this. You've given your examples. You know it works this way. I know you know it works this way. I know you feel like probably at this point, Lee, we get it. You can move on to the next point. Here's the thing, though. I want to make you sure that you understand that what I'm about to do is I'm going to erase these words around this triangle that's on this whiteboard. I'm going to put new words around this triangle that's on this whiteboard. And the triangle is going to work the exact same way. So if you're ready, here we go. Just let's take that one in for a minute. Purposes, barriers, freedom. Of course, these are the parts of a game, and life is a game. That means that if we raise one corner, the other two go up at the same time. If we lower one, the other two go down at the same time. Okay, let me pull this reference back up here. I gotta type in my code. Hang on one sec. Computer went to sleep. Okay, so the second half of that reference. It's good though. You had time to really take this in, didn't you? Second part of that reference, he says, I'm going to have to ask you to look that over and find enough examples to satisfy yourself that a relationship does exist. Because it looks absolutely mad that if we put a 9 o'clock curfew on the streets of this city, that people would have more freedom. So you'll just have to walk your way through the morass of it because it's true. This is the wildest thing you ever saw. Morass, by the way, you can pause and look it up if you want to, but it's basically like a swampy area, thick and difficult to get through. So it's thick and difficult to get through a swampy area, thick and difficult to get through the concept of that if you raise this corner, the barriers corner, the purposes actually go up as well. And so does freedom. Whoa! Okay, so here's what we do. We do what LRH says to do, which is make enough examples to satisfy ourselves that a relationship does exist. So just like with ARC, I will go first. There is a story in my family tree of my great-great-grandmother who was driving down an old country road in Texas, old gravel road. She had her son in the car. I don't know if that time seatbelts were even in cars, but if they were, they didn't have them on. They had the windows down. She lost control of the car, went into a ditch, and the car started to roll. And as it rolled, it threw her son out of the car. The car rolled over and came to rest on her son from the legs down, from basically his thighs down, just below the hips. The rest, the body was pinned, all right? So, of course, there is no cell phones to call for help back then. There isn't even a 911 to call. There is no neighbor to go knock on the door real quick because the closest neighbor is probably 4 or 5 miles that way or another 10 that way, right? I don't even know if there's emergency services at this time. to be able to get an ambulance out or anything of that nature. Long story short, at this point, her son is pinned beneath a car and he's going to die if she doesn't do something, right? So the barriers at that point on her game called being mom would be the highest that she has ever experienced, wouldn't you say? Right, okay. So any of the moms that are watching this right now, I can feel your emotion already. How big was her purpose at that moment? It was the biggest that she's ever experienced, right? There's something very special about the bond that a mother has with the children. I love my children. I usually talk about them in my seminars and I cry over them, but I can't quite touch what it is that my wife has for them. There's a real special connection there. So moms, the purpose was the biggest she's ever experienced in her mom game, right? Okay, then you already know what she did, don't you? In her freedom corner. She went over, she picked up the car, and she pulled the kid out. Now, this is the one and only time in my aunt's lifetime that she went around and picked up a car and pulled a kid out of it. I know this because if we had a superhero in the family who was going around and picking up vehicles at random and pulling kids out and saving people, I would have heard about it, okay? I mean, I've heard about this one enough because we're pretty proud of it. But what happened here? What actually happened? Well, the barriers were so huge that at that moment, her purpose was also off the charts. Which means technically that her freedom at the same time, right? You raise one corner, the other two go up when? Not later. It works like the ARC triangle. It goes up right then. So her freedom corner was that huge. How did she pull this off? How did she do this? Well, of course, we are all actually OTs, and we've just gone through half an eternity of making bad decisions and operating less and less to our true potential. But it's still there, and it's still available to be operated on. And in that moment, when her barrier was that high, she operated on a real basic lifetime purpose and operated as an OT and went over and picked that car up and pulled the kid out. It's pretty amazing, right? I want to look at my notes here to see what other examples I have. Because he says you got to find enough examples to satisfy yourself that this relationship does exist. So what else do I have here? Here's an interesting thing to look. You can see this everywhere in sports. Every athlete that is playing in sports wants to play in what? The championship game. Whatever that is, in whatever sport, they want to play at the highest level. They want to go to the game that means everything. Why do they want to do that? Don't they know that that'll be the hardest? Don't they know that that's when the best other team will be there? Don't they know that that's when all the pressure's on because that's what you've worked for your whole life? That's what all of the entire, big portion of the world is actually watching now, is actually paying attention. You could screw up. I mean, the barriers are the highest at that moment, aren't they? I mean, I don't know if you paid attention, but when you get up to that level, even the 1-1 reporters, the covertly hostile reporters, the best ones of those are the ones that are asking the questions. I mean, the barriers are the highest. Why do they want to do that? Well, obviously because that's where the greatest freedom is as well. That's where they experience their purpose the highest. They're actually operating on it at that high level. I'll give you an example of this. I saw in a football game, Dallas Cowboy football game. Yes, I am from Texas, and I am a Dallas Cowboys fan. It's the law. Deal with it. So back in the 90s, when the Cowboys were winning a lot, they're coming back. They're coming back. They're going to do good. They're going to do good this year. But back in the 90s when they were winning Super Bowls, Emmitt Smith was their running back. Now, if you're watching this internationally, you don't understand. Real simple. The running back is the guy that gets handed the ball and then he goes running with it. Sometimes they'll throw him a little pass, a little short pass. He'll catch it. He'll go running with it, right? So here's what happened. They were in a playoff game, which is the regular season, and then they get into the playoffs. Then you got to win or your season is over. They're trying to get to the Super Bowl, the championship game. So Emmitt got injured in a play and he separated his shoulder, like really messed it up bad. Looking back now, understanding this tech here, it's fascinating to look at what happened. Now, first off, Emmitt injured his shoulder, separated it, and he kept playing and had one of his greatest games ever. Anyone who's a Cowboys fan knows about this game. And many who are not Cowboys fans know about this game. The first thing is to look at this. If it was a preseason game, would Emmitt have actually kept playing in the game? No, of course not. Coach wouldn't have let him. He wouldn't have been interested in doing it. Why is that? I mean, well, it's pretty obvious, isn't it? In the preseason game, the purposes are not as high, the barriers are not as high, and thus the freedom is not as high. Now, you get up to a playoff game. This is it. You got to go for it, right? You got to win, or it's all over. The game is over. So it's higher. So he does play. Now, here's what's even more fascinating is watching inside the game itself. Inside the game itself, Emmitt with a separated shoulder is out there. He would be in the huddle where they're calling the play, have his arm all up against him. You could see him holding it in like this. He would get down, he would get ready. Troy, the quarterback, he would get the ball, he would turn, he would hand it. Emmitt would go, he would as soon as the play started, Emmitt would take off, he would get the ball, he'd go running with the ball, doing his jukes, he would get tackled, boom, guys land on him, and then he would get up, and all of a sudden he's got this thing back up against. During the play, he's running, he's doing all this. The play is over, all of a sudden the arm's back, he goes back over like this. They get back in the huddle, they call the next play. They throw him, they say, hut, he takes off, runs out, catches a pass with his arm up like this, catches a pass. Boom. He's running, gets tackled, boom, he hits the ground, plays over, he gets up, arm is back like this. Well, while the play is going on, are the barriers higher? Is the purpose higher? Yes, they are. The barriers are higher because while the play is going on, the 400-pound lineman and the 300-pound linebackers can smash you. When the play is not going on, they can't smash you, so the barriers are lower. The purpose is lower because you're still figuring out what the play is. Once the play starts, the purpose is higher, the barriers are higher, the freedom is higher, and Emmitt can run and he can play. Fascinating, absolutely fascinating. Okay, I could go on and on with examples myself, but that's not what the reference says. The reference says, I'm going to have to ask you to look that over and find enough examples to satisfy yourself the relationship does exist. All right? So this is the point where you do that. Again, you're going to pause the video. You're going to look at your life and you're going to find examples of where you have seen, experienced, observed or experienced this game's triangle in action. The barriers went up, purpose and freedom both went up at the same time as that, all right? So pause the video, go down to the comments, write it in, read some of the other examples that people hopefully have already written in there, and we got to get to a point where we have enough examples to satisfy ourselves that a relationship does exist, okay? So hit pause and do that now. Okay, pause is over. Now, if you didn't do it, hit pause. I'm telling you, hit pause. This is where the thing shifts. This has got to become real to you at this point, all right? So if you didn't hit pause, hit pause. Hit pause, do this exercise. This is where it shifts, okay? Pause. All right, good. Now, I will end off with one last example. It's one of mine from the time when I was a firefighter. I was a firefighter paramedic professionally for about 5 years. There was a fire that I was in, and in the fire, I was the guy on the nozzle. And this was a house that was a pier and beam house. So it's got a floor like this, and then it's got beams underneath the floor, right? So it's hollow under here. And the fire somehow had gotten inside of the floor, underneath the floor. And we're going through, and I fell through up to my knee or mid-thigh. I fell through the floor. And I didn't think anything about it. I pulled myself up and I just kept right on going because the fire was live. I had to knock a door out of the way right after that. We didn't know if people were in there, or even if there are not people in there. We want to save this structure and all the valuables that are in there for the people who own the home, right? So my purpose as a firefighter was really high. While the fire was going on, while I was in there, the barriers were really high. And so my freedom to just continue, the adrenaline flowing through the body, pick the body right up out of that and just keep right on going and continue to fight the fire until it was out. Now, here's what's interesting. Once the fire was out, I was outside. I'm walking around, and all of a sudden my leg really starts hurting, like right around my calf. It really starts hurting. And so I grab the pants, we call them bunker pants. I pull my pants, the pant leg up so I can see, and I find on my leg that I've got this burn that's all the way around, right across the top above my boot. I had a 2nd-degree burns around there because it had pulled the pant leg up, and the fire had burned my leg. But I didn't even feel it while I was inside the fire. While I was inside the fire, I was on purpose. The barriers were super high. My freedom was super high. I had a game, and I was into that game, man. So I didn't even experience it until the barriers shrunk down. And then all of a sudden my freedom shrunk down. The adrenaline came down a little bit, and I felt the burn. All right, so that was the last example. Hopefully that you have done your own work on this. You've got your own examples. You've read some of the other examples. And we're to a point now, the only point we're trying to get to right now is just this. That we understand there is a relationship between purposes, barriers, and freedom in this thing called life, which is a game. All right? So that reference that we were looking at actually has a second part to it. So we're going to take that up now.
Okay, so now we're looking at the bottom of this reference, the last paragraph and sentence. He says, now you can assign purpose to life, and if you don't, nobody will. Purpose has to be assigned to life because it is purposeless. There isn't any purpose to life at all. When you can swallow that bitter pill, you can live.
Well, did you get that bitter pill swallowed yet? This is very interesting. Now you can assign purpose to life. And if you don't, nobody will. Purpose has to be assigned to life because it is purposeless. There isn't any purpose to life at all. Wow. When you can swallow that bitter pill, you can live. Here's what I love about this. Can your teacher, when you're a kid, assign your purpose? According to this, no. Can society assign your purpose? No. Can your mom assign your purpose? No. She can try, but she can't really do it. Can the husband assign the purpose to the wife? Of course not. Can the wife assign the purpose to the husband? All the husbands go like this. If you're watching with your wife, just yes, abs, yes. Of course they can, Lee. Of course. No, the answer would be no. Can your supervisor assign your purpose for doing the course that you're doing? No. Can your auditor assign your purpose for going in session or going up the bridge? No. You assign the purpose to life, and we've already gone over that all of the doingnesses that we do are part of life, and life is just a game. So you are the one then assigning the purpose to your game. Whatever it is that you got going on, whatever it is that you're doing, you are the one who assigns the purpose. No one else does that. This is absolutely fantastic. This is fantastic. This to me told me that this purposes corner became my control corner. When I understood that concept, this became my control corner. How so? Well, this one I assign. If I don't assign it, then I have no gain, right? This is when he says it comes from me. It has to come from me. Nobody else can assign it. Life, the game, is purposeless unless you assign it, right? So I assign this, then I have barriers and freedom that match it. I'll give you an example. Today in Africa, there were many, many people, I don't know how many, hundreds, maybe thousands, that died from lack of water, okay? So there was all these people that died because they didn't have water. Now, that barrier didn't actually touch me or affect my life today. I was out in the yard doing some yard work, doing some work, getting in here to do this recording of this seminar. I did not think about that actually until I just brought this up as the example. But what also didn't happen is none of the freedom to do something about all of that, none of that touched me either. Let's say, though, instead that I had been in Africa today, and I was there because I had decided that I was going to do something about this, that these people were not going to die when I could do something about it, that I really wanted to save them and make sure that they had water, that was very important to me. I then have assigned a purpose, haven't I? And at that moment, those people who are dying are affecting my everyday. I'm not going through any day without that hitting me. I want to know the numbers of it. When I see any of the pictures, it hurts me, right? I feel this barrier now. But what I also have is freedom. I have the freedom to use the technology called drilling wells to be able to help turn this around and get people this fresh, clean water. I have the freedom to use the technology called ARC to get in communication with companies that have technology of drilling wells so that I can solve this problem for them. You see this? I could be a boxer. Until I climb into the ring as a boxer, the other guy can't hit me. The barriers can't touch me until I get in the ring saying, hey, I got in the ring to fight this cat. I'm in here now. I got the freedom to use all the moves and the things that I've been training on. The barrier is there for me to use them against to actually live on my purpose, to actually work on my purpose, to actually have this real and alive for me. I've got a game. I've got a game once I assign the purpose. But if I don't, nobody will, and there is no game. And the game becomes no game. Because it's still live. It's still a game. It's just no game at that point. Okay. So when I looked at all of this, and maybe you in this particular time that we're in, feel like, okay, I got it. But there's something that still just feels like it's missing. Something that's like, yeah, but I feel like I'm in a game right now that I don't want to be in. I feel like I didn't choose for this to happen on this planet right now. That's not part of what's going on for me. Well, there is a fourth element. He calls it the guiding elements of life, all right? There's 4 of them. 4 guiding elements. We have 3 here: purpose, barriers, and freedom. So we need to look at the next reference to understand what that 4th one is, because it really brings the whole thing together.
There is, of course, the matter of being forced to play games in which one has no interest. A war into which one is drafted is an excellent example of this. One is not interested in the purposes of the war, and yet one finds himself fighting it. Thus, there must be an additional element, and this element is the power of choice. One could say then that life is a game, and that the ability to play a game consists of tolerance for freedom and barriers, and an insight into purposes with the power of choice over participation. These four elements, freedom, barriers, purposes, and power of choice, are the guiding elements of life.
All right, so now we have the fourth element to our game. And that is, of course, power of choice. Oh, now you got me, don't you? Now you got me. There's a quarantine going on. There's hysteria going on. You can't leave your house. You can't go. The power of choice has been taken away. Your power of choice has been taken away, hasn't it? Or has it? Has it really been taken away? Has it actually? You know, one of the things that I've loved about Scientology from the beginning is that it's something that you do. It's something that you apply. It's something that you use in life, right? So let's look at this. Let's look at a different scene. Let's look at an example from my life so we can take it out of our current circumstances. Let's put it out here so we can actually look at it, all right? So a real example from my life of how I thought I lost my power of choice and that I was able to stay in the same circumstances and actually keep my power of choice. It's very interesting. So as I said in the beginning of this seminar, I wear many hats. So this story comes from two of the GPS companies that I'm an executive at. So the first GPS company, let me put them up here on the board so keep it separate. GPS company number one. I am vice president of operations there. I'm also a co-founder of that company. Now, the way that I ended up there is I was at a company previous to this one, would be off of our board, where I started out doing it on the side. I applied this games data, this fundamental data we're going over here, along with the condition formulas, order versus disorder, PTSSP tech, some stuff I go over in my workshop. But anyway, I applied this and I went from sort of doing this on the side as a regional guy to becoming the director of their program nationally, hiring up a whole staff, training them to do what I was doing. And in it was a 16 to 18 month period that I created a 417% increase in revenue for that company. After that, I got an opportunity to leave and help co-found and become vice president of operations at this other GPS company number one. So at this company, I was able to help build from the ground up. So we really implemented the power formula, the power condition that I was in at the other company, but being suppressed. I was able to come to this one and really get it in fully. So fully, in fact, that, quickly let me tell you sort of what we do, just very briefly. So we have GPS devices. Let's say this is a GPS device. We take these and we put them inside of automobiles. Once it's inside the automobile, somebody can take their phone and they can, on the app, they can find the car wherever it's at. They can set speed alerts. They can set boundary alerts, an area on the map, and the car goes outside of that, then it automatically notifies them. Low battery, low fuel, maintenance, a number of different things they can do with that. So we sell it to car dealerships. The car dealership uses it so that salespeople can find the cars faster. They can take care of you, service you faster. At night, they can turn on their geofence so that if anybody steals a car, they immediately are notified about it. There's a whole lot of features that they can take advantage of. Then when you come in as a customer to buy the car, they'll sell you the car with the device in it. And now you get the app and you can find out if your kids are going somewhere they shouldn't be going. Or if you loan your car to your cousin Johnny and he takes it somewhere he shouldn't be going. Whatever, you can keep up with it, okay? Get an insurance discount, things like this. So basically, by my application of this gains tech, condition formulas, and the rest of the stuff I talked about, I was able to create that 417% increase and come up with a power formula to provide everyone what they really need or want with this product. So we were so successful here that we were running stats in the dealerships that we are in with our product. We were running stats that are 3 times what any other GPS company in the entire industry is running. They were so high, in fact, that there was a second company. We formed a second company because there's a big insurance company in the car business. Insurance company. They are the largest, if not the largest, one of the absolute largest for selling insurance, extended warranties, and things like this in the car business. They were looking for someone to partner with so that they could sell a GPS device. So we formed a second company. And at this company, I am the COO, the Chief Operations Officer, and an advisor to the board. So when we launched this company, these guys at the first dealership, let's just say store there, their number one agent was over that store. And I went out to oversee this personally. I didn't send any of the people who were hiring, training, and that stuff. I went out myself to make sure that this one went right. And by this point, I've got 20 pages of checklists that we use to implement the program correctly. The power change formula, right? It's all written up. Make sure that it gets done properly. 20 pages of checklists on top of individual checklists for each person that we train while we're in the store. So while I'm there, this number one agent doesn't come, but one of her employees is there. And the 3 of us are on a 3-way call on speakerphone. And we're talking about, at the beginning of the week, on how we're going to implement this program. Now, she's saying ideas that she has on how she wants this done. She's got a lot of other products as an agent in the store. So she's got a lot of say about how this goes in the store, right? So she's telling me how she wants it done. Now, I know according to my power formula and according to those checklists that a lot of the things that she wants done are things that are not workable with this program, that will crash. So I start bringing up, hey, did you think about this or this happening if that happens? Yes, I know, but that's not going to happen here, So we go on. Something else that I would bring up, and long story short, little ways into this, she says to me, Lee, there is nothing you can tell me that I don't already know about this dealership or about how to run this program. I've made more money in the car business than any other woman you've ever met, unless you know celebrities. Or she's made more money as a woman than anyway. So I said, all right. So how would you like this program put in then? So she tells me, and I go, okay, that's what we'll do. And I get off the phone, and the employee that was there, she says to me, oh my God, I'm so sorry. And I go, it's fine, but I'm going to go for a walk. And I go outside, and I pick up my phone, and I call my FSM, and I say, dude, I am so pissed off right now. I haven't had somebody talk to me that way in so long without me punching them in the throat. I'm from Texas. We don't put up with that crap. I'm the COO of the company. This whole thing is set up off of my power formula. I don't have to deal with this stuff. I am going to quit this job. I don't need it anyway. I've got the first company. I make plenty of money there. I've got all the other companies and things, activities that I'm doing, the hats that I'm wearing. I'll use the time to go up the bridge. Who needs this thing anyway? he says, wow, I got that. Can I ask you a question? And I go, yes. What? He says, whose game are you playing? I go, what? I don't know whose game I'm playing. I'm just mad. He goes, well, I understand that you're mad, but what I'm asking is, whose game are you playing? And I go, he goes, let me put it this way. Are you playing her game, the agent's game, of smash each other with case, or are you playing your game? And I said, well, obviously I'm playing her game. He goes, well, whose game do you want to play? I go, well, I want to play mine, but I'm mad. He says, okay, well then, be mad, but just make sure that you're taking a look at whose game you are actually playing and whose game you want to play and get to playing that game. I go, okay, fine. I'm going to get off the phone, I'm going to go for a walk. So I hang up the phone, I go walking around the dealership parking lot. Luckily on the back, there's nice spacious area where you're looking off into the woods. Breathe a little bit, may have kicked a couple tires on some cars, but I finish all of it, come back around, and I call him back. I said, all right, so obviously I want to play my game. So let me look at this, and we talk through how to play my game. And it's actually really simple. I could go back into the same environment and play my game of putting sanity into spaces, of putting order into space, of putting theta into space. And I didn't actually, because I do have power of choice, I didn't actually have to play the game that the agent was playing in that same environment. So I went back into the same environment and I played my game the whole week. I just went around and helped people. I just got into ARC with people. I just did the non-existence formula with people. I just set up things in the dealership according to how she was saying for it to be done, with a little bit of a lean toward how I knew it needed to be done as much as possible, right? Now, here's what's really fascinating. By the end of the week, I got in so much of this program, and of course her employees there and calling her back, talking to her. And to her credit, the agent actually called me and apologized to me for how she had blown up on me earlier in the week. Now, the other thing that happened is, as the number one agent for this insurance company, international insurance company, actually, she went to the president of that company and she said, listen, I've told you before that there's no way to take GPS and do this on a wide scale across the U.S. There's no way to spread this into a lot of different stores. But with these guys, you can. These guys actually know what they're doing. They have a way to do this. We need to go all out for this. So we ended up pulling off more of my purpose, because in that situation that I was in there, I was in the dealership, I was having to do what she was telling me to do because she's the one in charge for the dealership, right? She was playing a particular game. I had power of choice, though, to still be in the same environment and not play that game, but instead to assign my purpose to my game. It's a really fascinating thing. I've found since then that every time that I feel like, oh, I'm going to blow things up, nearly every time that I feel that way, I'm actually feeling like I'm not playing my game and my power of choice has been taken away. But the fact is, it can't be taken away. I can choose what I care to do. Right now, in the circumstances that we are in, I can choose to be very upset about these circumstances. I can choose to be on and play the game of hysteria that's going on. I can choose to be on the internet watching the Dems tear apart the Republicans tear apart the Dems. I can watch the mass hysteria being spread by the mass media of either side. Or, power of choice, I can still be in the same environment inside my house and not play that game. I can play my own game of sanity, of theta, of help, of continuing to go up the bridge, of doing my extension course. I have power of choice over my activities. And that's a really powerful thing. Okay, I want to see if there's anything else here. Okay, that's it on power of choice for this seminar. I hope that makes sense to you. I hope you can see that in your scene. Now, that's not the end though. What we've got to so far, quick review, there's nothing we're doing that isn't life. Life, of course, we understand now is a game, that if we want to conform it to the condition we care to have, that we're going to do that through games. We know how a game works, purposes, barriers, freedom, a triangle that works just like the ARC triangle, and we know that we have power of choice over participation, right? So anything we're doing, that's what's going on. There's one missing element though, isn't there? Or one missing additional piece of data. And that data, of course, would be, how do you win the game? If the only thing you're doing is playing a game, how do you win the damn thing? Well, I don't know if you've had this same look at our friend, but I think our friend Ron really liked to win. So of course he told us how to win as well, and that's our next reference.
And the more serious you take the game, the less chance there is of winning. The bottom of the tone scale is lose, and the top of it's win. This tells you it takes lots of space and lots of unseriousness to win. These things called universes are games, and really the most valuable thing that a Thetan possesses is his spirit of play. His spirit of play is sensation of play, and it's not just energy. It's a tremendous sensation. When a man loses his spirit of play, he's dead. That means that guys start dying at about 3.0. Conservatism. From 3.0 down, a person will tell you, well, I had some illusions when I was a kid, but I've lost all those. I'm practical now. What we're doing here is very serious, and the reason I work until 10, 11 o'clock is I have to keep the Cadillacs going because of the social position of the wife. It's terribly important, and keeping the big house going and that sort of thing. Then some night, he goes home and she's run away with the chauffeur. And he says, my heart is broken and all is lost. Do you want to know what's wrong with your pre-clear? Your pre-clear is too serious. Do you want to know what seriousness is? Seriousness is solidity. Did you ever hear of a solid citizen? If you want to get something done, don't get any of these serious boys. There's nothing that succeeds like insouciance. Plain flippancy will actually get more done in less time than anything else you can name.
Okay, so here's what I love about this reference. Again, Scientology is something you do. It's an applied philosophy, right? So he's giving us clues here, things to do, things to know and then use to do something with in order to win. So what are some of the clues? Here's some of the clues I got on it. All right, the bottom of the tone scale is lose. The top of it's win. Let's put some of this over here, okay? So we got our tone scale here. Okay, bottom down here. And the bottom is, of course, I want to put this in red. The bottom is lose, right? Bottom of the tone scale is lose, okay? And the top of the tone scale, of course, is win. So up there, let's put that in blue. Up here at the top is win. Well, let's make that prettier. I'll make that prettier. Well, maybe not. It's hard reaching up there. Okay, the top of the tone scale is win. What are the other clues? Starts losing spirit of play. When he starts losing his spirit of play, he's dead. And the guy starts dying at about 3.0. So at about 3.0 is where he starts dying. I would say that's a movement toward losing, right? If you start to die, you're losing. So at 3.0 down, you're losing. This is lose. This is all lose down this way. What else does he say? He says, seriousness is solidity, right? So if you're serious, you're solid, you're not going to get anything done. So that would be seriousness. Let's have this down here as well. Equals being solid. Equals solidity. It equals being solid. Being serious is being solid. What else about the top? Lots of space, lots of unseriousness to win. Nothing succeeds like insouciance. Let's put these up here. So we need lots of space. Let's just go all the way across the top. We need lots of space. We need unseriousness. We need insouciance. Oh, those are wind. Those are wind things, right? Nothing succeeds like insouciance. You know who has that down? Kids. Kids have it down. You know who else has it down? Dogs. Dogs have it down. If you're stuck at home right now and you got a dog as a pet, those suckers can be really insouciant. I remember when we had our dog neutered, he had the cone on, of course, and he turned the damn cone into a chew toy. I mean, you'd think they'd be upset about this thing on all the time. He turned it into a chew toy. He was out in the backyard. He was still doing all the fun things that he does. He goes into this, you get out in the backyard, and you just make a movement toward the soccer ball that is his ball. Boy, he just goes running, everything. He's just the most excited thing in the world. Obviously, you've seen it with kids. You've seen it in the way that they play and the spirit that they infuse life into everything with. You know who, going back to football again, from Texas, man, I can't help it. This is not a Texas reference though. It's Brett Favre. If you don't know who Brett Favre was or is, he was the quarterback of the Green Bay Packers. And if you don't know much about football, it's simple. The quarterback is the one that they hike the ball to on every play, and then he's going to throw it to somebody. He's going to hand it off to the running back, like Emmitt Smith. I talked before. He's going to run with it, But it's the quarterback's job to figure out what's going on with the defense, and then to make sure that he distributes the football to the right place, basically. Now, here's what's interesting about Brett Favre. Brett Favre, if you've seen him play, then you know he played with total spirit of play. He was like a big kid on the field. He retired 2 or 3 times. I can't remember if it's 3. I know it was at least 2 times, and kept coming back. And some people would say, the negative ones in the media would say, oh, he's coming back for the money. How could he turn down? He just can't. He didn't need the money. All Brett cares about is being on his farm. In retirement, he just wants to be on his farm. Now, he loved the game, though. Now, here's what's interesting. Brett had so many records at the time that he retired, but the one that impresses me the most is he still has this record: the most consecutive games ever played by any player in any position. All right? Now, he's the quarterback. He's got 300, 400-pound linemen that are coming, crushing him to the ground, landing on top of him, trying to hurt him. All right? He's played totally sick. He's played with broken bones. He played 2 or 3 days after his father had passed. away, and he had one of his greatest games ever. Now, the NFL, the National Football League, the NFL Network did a documentary on him. And it was fascinating to watch because they started off one of the clips. Brett is standing on the sidelines, here. The defensive guys are out there playing. The game's going on. Brett's standing there, and you see him go like this. He goes, "You smell that? That was me." He farted on the guy standing next to him, and he's laughing about it. Then the next clip, he's sitting back on the bench, game still going on out there, and he's got a dip of tobacco in his mouth, right? And he says to the guy next to him, he says, hey, do you know I had this in? You think Coach knows? I had it in when we're out there playing. Professional football league, he's out there playing with a dip of snuff, tobacco in his mouth. All right, well, that's just with the guys on the sidelines. The other team, he's got to be against them. They're the enemy. They're the barrier. Nope, he wasn't that way. He's standing on the sidelines, and you see him go, hey, I'm hungry. I'm hungry. You want to get a burger? Get a burger? And the guy next to him looks at him like, what the heck are you doing? And he goes, oh, that's my friend. We're going to get a burger. Okay, so all that's on the sidelines. What about when he gets out there and he's actually playing? Well, they show him get in one of the plays, throws the pass, gets tackled, big, huge lineman, lands on top of him, lays on top of him, right? He sees that the pass is complete. He looks up the guy and he pats him and he goes, good hit. What about the playoffs? What about when it gets serious? I mean, this is the time of year that everything matters. Well, there was a play that they showed at the end of one of the games where he, honest to God, it's the last play of the game. They need about 8 yards to be able to score a touchdown. If they score a touchdown, they win the game. If they don't score a touchdown, the whole season is over, right? So they do their huddle, talk about the play, call the play, break the huddle. He comes walking up to the line, and he looks over at one of the guys on the defense. And I don't remember what the guy's name was, but he says something like, hey, Jones. Let's say the guy's name is Jones. He says, hey, Jones, what do they have you in for? Don't they know this is an important play? And then he grins. He goes down. They hike the ball to him. He runs. He throws a sidearm pass. They score a touchdown, and they win. There's so many examples of this in sports. One of my favorites is Muhammad Ali and the rope-a-dope fight. In the rope-a-dope fight, it's called this because he came up with a technique that they dubbed rope-a-dope, or I think he may have dubbed rope-a-dope. But here's what's interesting. In the documentary on it, Muhammad Ali, obviously Muhammad Ali had a big purpose. His purpose was well beyond the ring. If you know anything about this man or looked at his life, this guy was about cultural change. This guy was about making things better. His famous line was, I am the greatest. But he used his platform as the greatest boxer to be able to do all these social betterment things. He's also a deeply religious man. So later in his career, he is coming to fight George Foreman. George Foreman is this Hulk of a guy, and he is destroying everyone that he gets into a fight, or that he gets into the boxing match with. He's got so much power, no one can stand up to it. So Ali looks at this. He sees the barriers are bigger than normal. He's later in his career. He's still saying, I am the greatest, right? He's still got this purpose of being at the top and helping and showing excellence and living excellence in life. So he looks to his freedom corner and he comes up with a new thing. He said he knew that he could not stand up to Foreman's punches on his body because they were too powerful. So he looked at it and figured out that if he put himself up against the rope, whenever Foreman hit him, the force of it landing into the body, wherever it landed, if he gave with it into the rope, then the rope back here would absorb some of that energy and he could bounce back off of it, right? Freedom corner. The ability to create and position energy and matter in time and space. So he is moving in time and space. He is moving this matter and energy in time and space. He, by going into this, back and forth off this rope, he was able to wear George Foreman out. Now, meaning Foreman just kept hitting him and hitting him and hitting him, and it seems like Foreman is winning, but it's actually not having much of an effect on Ali because he's living in his purposes and freedom corners, and he's not paying too much attention to the barrier corner. All right, what does this boil down to? Well, he late in the fight, Foreman said that he hit Ali with he said it's one of the hardest punches he's ever thrown, connected as hard as he'd ever hit anybody. And Ali went into the rope, came back up and said, "Is that all you got, George?" And Foreman said at that point he knew that he had lost the fight. He knew that Ali was going to beat him. So, and he did. That's actually when the fight turned and Ali went to whipping him. So here's the point. Lots of space, lots of unseriousness. Insouciance wins the day. Now, I've got a couple of tips for being able to get into this space out of when you're down here in this, right? When you're being serious, when you're getting more and more serious about things and more serious and more serious, what's happening? I'm getting more and more solid. Solid doesn't flow. Solid, I mean, this bookcase is solid. This bookcase is totally effect. I could take a sledgehammer and smash this thing right now. It can't do anything about it because it's a solid. If I'm doing like this, I'm actually effect. I can actually be knocked around very easily when I'm down like this. But the thing is, when I'm down like this, which does happen to all of us, it's to recognize that this is a lose position. And then the question becomes, do you want to lose? If you do, stay like this. Get more like this. See how serious you can be. See how solid you can be. That's how much you'll lose. See how far down the tone scale you can go. That's lose. All right? The key is when you recognize you're down there and you go, but I don't want to lose. Okay, this is a lose position. What can I do to have space, to be insouciant? Well, I'll give you a couple of tips. Actually, I'm going to need a little more space for this. We're going to have to expand out into the office here. Wait, I think I want to go this way. We'll have more space this way. All right. Lighting isn't so great, but I think it'll work. Okay, good. So when my daughters were younger, they've caught on to my tricks, so they don't come and do this anymore. But when they were younger, sometimes they would come to me and say, "Dad, I'm mad." And I, of course, helped them try to solve that, so they weren't mad anymore. Sometimes it solves. Sometimes it didn't solve. I say, well, do you want to be mad, right? Power of choice, right? If you want to be mad, take your wiffle ball bat, go into your bedroom and beat the crap out of your pillows, all right? Just don't break anything that I have to fix. They say, no, I don't want to go do that. And I go, all right, well, you sure you don't want to be mad? No, I don't want to be mad. And I'll say, okay, well then skip. Well, I don't want to skip. I'm mad. Yeah, but you said you don't want to be mad, so I'm saying skip. Now, have you, watching this video, have you ever tried to be mad and skip at the same time? Do you know what skip is? Here, I'll show you. I'm going to get a little more space even. Let's make sure we can really, yes, because we need space for this one. I said that I was the chief operations officer. Let's say that I'm the chief sales officer and that you guys are my sales staff. you're watching this, you're part of my sales staff, and I got this big go-to meeting, Zoom meeting, whatever. I got all you guys on web, and I'm just letting you have it. I'm telling you, this is not going to go on like this anymore. The numbers have got to come up, and I am not going to put up with this anymore. I'll tell you that this is not the way that we are going to run this company, and there's no way that you're going to be able to stay serious, that I'm going to be able to stay serious. It just doesn't happen. So whenever, actually, here we go. We're going to do another exercise. This is what I want you to do. I want you to skip with me. Okay? We're going to do skipping right now. We're going to skip together. You ready? Come up, get up, do this with me in your house, wherever you're at. Let's just do this. Let's just skip around. Let's just get a little space. Let's just have some insouciance. Let's just be unserious about things. Skippity-doo-dah. All right. Did you skip? Did you skip? Can you not skip? Will the body not skip? Is the body not in a position to be able to skip? Do you not have room to be able to skip? Okay. Don't think that you got out of it. I'm going to lower this thing down a little bit because I'm going to show you another option that you can use. Now, this option is called bad chair dancing. Now, bad chair dancing, I'll demonstrate to you in a moment. But first, let me tell you where it has its origin. My wife and I were in her SUV. She's driving. I'm in the passenger side. Daughters were in the back. My oldest was in high school at the time. We were stopped at a stoplight, and there was a little shopping strip over here and a bank. And these four high school age kids came walking from around the bank, 2 girls and 2 guys. And the 2 guys were kind of out front. You can see one was kind of taking the lead, and it looked like they were daring him to, he was up to something, you know. And so he comes walking around, and then he looks over at me in the passenger side of the car, and he does one of these, you know, just dancing, right? So I looked at the guy, and I went, I don't know, it looks like fun to me. So I open up the door, and I jump out in the middle of the street, and I go back at the guy. ARC that we went over earlier, he starts going, that's my boy! That's my boy! All of them were laughing. Also ARC in the opposite direction, my daughter in the back of the car, going, Dad, I know those people, oh my God. Okay, anyway, so that was the origin of bad chair dancing. Now, here's what it is. It can't be good chair dancing. It's got to be bad, all right? So you're sitting in the chair, and you're dancing like you're hearing, I don't know, 14 different songs all at the same time, you know? By the way, join me. This is an exercise. This is something we do, right? So get your bad chair dance on. Come on. Come on. Make the chair move. Get your bad chair dance going. All right. So I have to ask you a question. For real. 1, did you do it? Did you do the bad chair dancing? If not, please do the bad chair dancing. Did you skip? If not, please go and skip, all right? I'm trying to get back to my original position over here. So I gotta go back to the board in just a second. Okay, so this is where we're wrapping this thing up. Did you do the exercise? Did you do the skipping? Did you do the bad chair dancing? And if you did, then here's the question. Do you feel like you have more space? Do you feel less serious? Do you feel a little more insouciant? Do you feel a little closer to the top of the tone scale? And if you do you feel like you could win at your game, that you could exercise your power of choice, that you could operate on your purpose, that you could assign that for your game, for your activities, for what you're doing, and you could move forward that way? I think the answer is probably yes. So, if not, get up and try it. Try it again. Keep skipping. Find some way. The point is to find some way to have space and unseriousness. You know, my oldest daughter is is not somebody who likes to go out and do these kinds of things, but she's an artist and she loves to draw. And when she sits down and she starts drawing or she starts listening to her music, that's where she finds her space. I like to go out and get on my Harley and go for a ride or go for a run or be on a horse. Oh my God, that is like the biggest space. I just love that. What can we do in times like this where maybe you can't get out and do that? I know most places we can at least go for a walk. If you can't go for a walk outside, skip inside. Do your course. Do your extension course. I mean, have you ever spent any time on study and afterwards went, well, that was a bad idea. I feel much worse now. No, it helps to get a lot of space and a lot of unseriousness that way. I'm sure there are a number of ways that you can come up with that you can get space, you can get unseriousness. You're a spiritual being. You don't have to have actual room to create that space, all right? Okay, so wrapping up here, just wrapping up. I think the last thing that I'd like to point out is just a personal viewpoint about this particular scene and about the particular scene that we're in right now. Maybe did you go to the New Year's event? Did you see what we've accomplished in the last decade? How much purpose we pushed in as a group? How much freedom we've expanded across this planet? So of course, we're going to get what I like to call, just personally, I like to call this corner the acknowledgement corner. I just wrote ACK. The acknowledgement corner. It's the corner that acknowledges the size of purpose that you have assigned and that you're operating on. When you move this thing out, this thing is there to acknowledge you. When you're the boxer and you climb into the ring, the other guy acknowledges that you're there boxing. The key is to be like Muhammad and keep coming off the rope. Keep coming off the rope. Is that all you got? Is that all you got? Be the greatest. And that's basically it for this seminar. I hope that this has helped you with what you're dealing with now. If you would like the reference pack, I want to put this together in the reference pack. If you would like this, please just go to yourtruegame.com. I'll put it in the post, yourtruegame.com. In there, you'll be able to get the reference pack so that you have all these things that we went over all together for you. And if you, after you've downloaded that, I would love to hear if you've had any wins or if you apply this and you have successes. I would love to hear that. And there's a button that you can press for that. Also, if you need some help with sorting out your games, there's a button that you can press for that as well. And my FSM and we got a team, and part of our game is to help people get up the bridge and to help people win in life. And so if you need some help, that's available for you too. If not, that's fine. Just go there and get the references so that you have these references and you can operate with that. And then the last thing is, like I said before, one of the most fun things that I do is I do travel to our churches and I do deliver seminars and workshops on this data. I've got a one-day seminar that I do on this, and we've got a drill that we do at the end of it on how to really drill in certainty on being able to use this tech. It's a lot of fun. And a 2-day workshop using my life as a real-life example of how one would apply all of this data and be able to create a 26x affluence, a 26xing of your income or some stat that you're wanting to 26x, and going on a long affluence trend. So if you go to leeburnsgames.com, that's LeeBurnsgames.com, then there's a book Lee form on there. There's more information about my seminars and that kind of stuff on there. And obviously with the shifting of things that have gone. My schedule has changed up, as I'm sure yours has. So I would love to fill up my calendar after everything lifts with going around to the orgs and helping our group to continue to win, helping our group to really apply this data and just continue to soar. Because the boss did say that we're going to expand more in this next decade, and he guaranteed it. So we are going to keep going, and we all need to do our part. So if you'd like some help with that, I would love to come out and play that game with you. Hit me up. Hello, beautiful people. Yes, I'm back. And yes, I'm aware that I'm in a different location and that I'm a mess. It's because I've been working in the yard. Now, if you were paying attention to the seminar so far, which I had recorded last night, then it would come as no surprise at all to you that I got a whole bunch of dev T and develop traffic, stuff in the way, a bunch of barriers, a bunch of barrier increase acknowledgements this morning and throughout the day. So toward the end of the day, I decided I wanted to come out and get some trees planted, work in the yard. Been doing that. And I also wanted to share one more reference with you. That is, to me, it is an acknowledgement of you. It is so perfect for looking at the bigger picture right now. And I went, well, this is great that I've ran into all these problems. Oh, the other problem. Yeah, I don't have any Wi-Fi right now. So I didn't have any way to post the video so that you could see it. Isn't that fantastic? So of course I take advantage of that freedom, and we're going to have more purpose and more freedom from this one more reference. So I'm going to share that with you now. Like I said, to me, it's an acknowledgement of you. So here it goes. He says, but you, look at that. I got bugs on me. I'll start again. He says, but you, your beingness is so tremendous actually, that the force and power of this small you can actually burn down mountains. If it couldn't, why did they go to so much trouble to fix you so you can't? Now that's one of those problems that proves itself. Nobody would have taken any trouble to get you aberrated and get you under the thumb if you weren't dangerous. You're dangerous, ornery, mean, causative. Do you know you're liable to go down the street and cause something? Hem him in. Pin him down, put the ball and chain on him quick, because in the center of his beingness, he is. And don't let him ever find out, because then he will be. That's from, it's a lecture, it's The Route to Infinity. It's the lecture Decision, Cause and Effect, 20 May 1952. And I will include that in the pack. I'll add that to the pack. Here's the thing though. First off, isn't that an awesome reference? And then secondly, I want to acknowledge you. My own personal acknowledgement that goes along with this. Now, I don't know if you've looked at this, but for at least half of an eternity, we have all been going in the wrong direction. All of us as beings. We've been going in the wrong direction, right? Like this kind of direction, becoming less and less and less direction. And that's been going on for half an eternity. It isn't like throughout the half of eternity we were going skippity doodah, isn't this fun to go like this? We were making efforts to go in the opposite direction. There have been attempts, Why have we continued to go like this anyway, though? Well, because the trap is that good. Just that good, that's all. It's that good of a trap. Okay. So what's the point? Now here's the point. The point is half an eternity. I'm going to give some mass on this. Here we go. I'll share this beautiful space I'm in with you as well. So let's look at this as time. This space is that we're going to look at here. This is time. This is going to be, so go all the way around here, all this space that you're looking at. Lovely, lovely space. All of this is all half of an eternity of time, all right? That's our mass. on half of an eternity of time. Okay? So, see if I can get this set back up now. Okay. So that was our half of eternity of time. Now, in 1950, Dianetics was released. The beginnings of a workable path. Further research was done. And now we're at the point where we have GAT2. Somewhere in the past 70 years, this game called Scientology was coming together. And that time span in which this actual workable solution for the first time ever in half of an eternity, it was coming together during that time. Now that, by comparison to this half eternity of time we just looked at, would be about like, can you see the thickness? Not the width of my fingernail, about the thickness of my fingernail, right there, dirty fingernail working in the yard. That fingernail, about that long, is how long there has been this chance for us to use this tech that is, for the first time, a wholly workable tech that we can stop going like this with, and we can instead turn and go like that with. Now, this is quite extraordinary, isn't it? I mean, this is quite something. It's quite something that it exists, period. Now here, I remember I started with, this is an acknowledgement of you. Well, here's where the acknowledgement of you comes in. In this flash of a moment, the thickness of my fingernail by comparison of time, where this opportunity, this tech and this opportunity to use it became available, which is on this little dirt ball of a planet called Earth. You probably haven't heard of it unless you're here. I mean, it's off in the boonies of all the universes, the edge of the galaxies, the edge of everything of existence, and there it is. And on this little planet, somehow, you made it to this planet somehow. And then not only did you make it to the planet, man, you're part of the upper echelon of the upper echelon of beings who've actually found the tech on this planet, and who are actually using it, who are actually applying it, who actually have it as part of their life, and you're making it go right. You understand that this should not be possible. This opportunity should not exist. One. Two, if it did exist, the thing that had you rigged to go like this, and me and everyone else to go like this for half an eternity, is still there. And yet, somehow, you're using this tech and you're going like this anyway. I mean, even if you're OT8 and you're not rigged with the thing, you're still in the freaking environment that's totally rigged with the thing, right? I think that's quite extraordinary, personally. I think that you, my friends, you're quite extraordinary. I think honestly, I think you're a superhero. You have to be, you understand, you have to be a superhero amongst Thetans, or you couldn't have pulled this off. You couldn't be pulling it off now. You couldn't be continuing down this line the way that you are. You're quite something, I have to tell you. So now, you and all your somethingness and your hero-ness, and me and all my somethingness and my hero-ness and dirtiness and all the rest of it. We're supposed to be worried about some little virus that hurts whatever percentage of bodies. It's awful small. I mean, even if you're worried about bodies, it's awful small. Sure, there's a hysteria that's being created by some really pitiful SPs. I mean, they're so weak. It's so easy to see through the scheme. I mean, come on, man. Why would we waste our time on that? Why would we waste our time on playing their game? Why would we not exercise our power of choice, the power of choice that you've exercised, the purpose that you've been on to end up in this game and to be going down this path? My God, it's something. Continue. I mean, continue. I'll tell you this. I mentioned this before, but this is one of the ways I'm continuing. Look at this. There you go. There's my creation of human ability, my dictionaries, because I'm on my extension course. You know why I'm on my extension course? I'll tell you. One, I want to get out of this trap. And the other is, I don't know about you, but across my existence, I haven't been able to find a time where I spent time with our friend, which I'm doing by reading his books and by studying his courses. I haven't found a time where I've spent time and then afterwards went, well, that was a really bad idea. Wish I hadn't done that. I mean, have you ever done a course or done a course period and afterwards went, boy, what a waste of time that was? Of course not. It's the most wonderful way you can spend your time. You're recovering yourself and you're connecting to the best friend we've ever had. So I'll tell you something. This is what I'm really focused on myself. This is what my game is currently, is I'm trying to wrap up this little dirt ball of a planet, this little theta and theta balance thing we got going on here. I'm trying to just wrap this whole scene up, do everything I can to do so that I can get off of this thing and go catch up with our friend. So I thought maybe you should be acknowledged for who you are, and I thought maybe you'd like to join me in this game. I think some of you are already playing it really, really well, right? So let's just keep going. This little momentary, it's in the environment. You got half of eternity in a split second. You found the way out. Let's continue on the way out. Let's go catch up, shall we? Sounds like fun to me. I think it's a good game.